What is going on, everybody? New York Sports Up here, back at it with another New York Giants video. Today I'm going to be making a video about who is the New York Giants' best defensive player. Now, this is a video I've been wanting to make for a very, very long time, because there's definitely a lot of options. Obviously, our defense was not great last year. The defense was arguably the worst in the league last year, and we signed a lot of pieces in the offseason that definitely could make it better. We drafted some guys that could definitely really help this defense. Obviously, some players won't be playing the whole season. So I'm just kind of going to list the candidates, and at the end of the video, I'm going to be explaining who I think is the best defensive player, and also put it down in the comments below who you think our best defensive player is. Put it down in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation, and I would do a best offensive player, but we all know it's Saquon Barkley, so I'm going to be doing a best offensive player at every single offensive position. That might come out tomorrow or some point, maybe over the weekend. I might do that, like the best player from each offensive position, and for the offensive line, it's going to be tough because we don't have great players. So I'll be probably doing that at some point this weekend. Also, make sure to stay tuned for the MLB Fantasy Draft video coming out right after this one. So let's get right into it. And so the first candidate I think that could be up there is we'll go over to the defensive line, and you have B.J. Hill. Who had a really good year back in 2018 and kind of definitely regressed in 2019. You have Dalvin Tomlinson, who's probably the most underrated New York Giant. He played really, really well. I still don't think he's our best defensive player. Dexter Lawrence, he's great. I mean, he had an amazing rookie season. He had a decent amount of sacks, but once again, he's only played one season in the NFL. You still can't call Dexter Lawrence the best player yet, but I think he can be in the future. Leonard Williams is definitely a guy who can be up there, because Leonard Williams is an absolute beast, and obviously Leonard Williams is considered one of the most overrated Giants, but I can definitely see where they're coming from, because we paid Leonard Williams a lot of money. Leonard Williams did play pretty well last year, had some really good games in there. I mean, he's a beast. He had a Pro Bowl year with the Jets, might have back in like 2016, 2017. He had a really good season. He might have had a couple Pro Bowls, and Leonard Williams is a beast. I mean, but once again, for the best defensive player, I'm not 100% sure, but I think he's definitely a candidate because, I mean, the dude's a beast. I'm excited to see how he performs. Obviously, a lot of people did not like the contract they gave Leonard Williams. I wasn't a huge fan of it either. But once again, we'll see how he performs. I think we need to give Leonard Williams a little bit of a chance because he's a really good ball player. I mean, once again, he's just a flat-out beast. There's not really much to say about Leonard Williams, and he's definitely a candidate for the best defensive player, although I don't see it, but he's definitely one of them. Moving over to the linebacker position, Blake Martinez is one. I know a lot of people aren't high on Blake Martinez. Personally, I am a fan of him. I think Blake Martinez is a good player. Blake Martinez didn't really have the same year in 2019 as he did in 2018, but he's actually one of the best middle linebackers in the league, in my opinion. Obviously, that's not the strongest defensive position. Doesn't have that great players, but I think he's a borderline top 5 middle linebacker. I think he's really good. And I think he's a little bit better than people say he is. A lot of people aren't a big fan of him. Personally, I am. I'm actually excited to see how Blake Martinez how he plays in 2020. I think he is a candidate for one of our best players. I think he definitely is I think he can definitely be one of our more consistent players, and hopefully he can return back to his form back in 2018. Personally, I think he's one of the better middle linebackers in the league, and the Packers have always had a pretty good defense, and I think he's been a part of that great Packers defense down there in Green Bay. Personally, I think he's a really good middle linebacker, and I think he can help his team. I'm kind of a big fan of the signing. It wasn't really much of an expensive signing. I was a big fan of it. It's a high risk, low reward, high reward, low risk. I was a big fan of that signing. I think Blake Martinez can actually be a really good player, and I think he's definitely a strong candidate for one of our best players. And he's easily top 3, and a lot of people will probably disagree with me on that. A lot of people would definitely say, "Oh, hell no! How could you think that?" Blake Martinez is definitely not one of our better players. Personally, I do think he is. I think he's probably our best linebacker. Going into next year, maybe not. It definitely could be O'Shane Ximines, but I don't think O'Shane Ximines, once again, he's only a rookie. You can't say O'Shane Ximines is our best player just yet. Lorenzo Carter has had ups and downs, and it was definitely a little bit disappointing. I was expecting a bigger year out of him. Ryan Connolly only played 4 games. He was fantastic in those games that he did play, but you can't consider Ryan Connolly our best player. Definitely not. Ogletree last year played okay. He had a much better year in 2018 than he did in 2019, but I wasn't really a big fan of the signing. overall, we have kind of a weak linebacker core. Honestly, one of our biggest needs for next offseason is an edge rusher, and we don't have one. So, but I think Lorenzo Carter can definitely be one of the elite ones. I made the video about which player needs to step up the Giants' pass rush. I chose him. I'm a big fan of Lorenzo Carter. I think he has a lot of talent. I just think if he can put it together, I think he could be one of our better linebackers. Blake Martinez, in my opinion, is our best linebacker, and I think he is, a candidate for one of our best players. And I don't think there's really any other linebacker that's in our depth chart that can be one of our best. So, moving over to the cornerback position, we have DeAndre Baker, who really struggled, but I'm a big fan of DeAndre Baker. It's honestly, we don't know if he's going to get suspended or not. He's most likely not going to, but you never know. You never know with the NFL these days, but most likely, I think DeAndre Baker will not be innocent. Will not be proved guilty. I think DeAndre Baker is innocent. I made a lot of videos where I think DeAndre Baker is definitely innocent there, and a lot of people are claiming it. So DeAndre Baker will probably make the team and be our starting cornerback. And we all know DeAndre Baker had his struggles, but I think DeAndre Baker can be one of our best cornerbacks this year. For our best player, definitely not yet. We still need a good year out of him to put even DeAndre Baker in the conversation, because DeAndre Baker really struggled. He's definitely we definitely can't put him in the conversation just yet. But I'm a big fan of Baker. I think he is a good player. I think if we don't put him in the slot, I think Baker can be pretty good. Darnay Holmes, we drafted him in the 3rd round, and I'm a big fan of Holmes. Deion Sanders and Rod Woodson are really hyping him up. I think Darnay Holmes has a lot of talent. I think he can perform to the same level as DeAndre Baker can as well. I think Darnay Holmes is really talented, and maybe he can even be better than DeAndre Baker, because I'm a big fan of Darnay Holmes, because you have arguably the best cornerback of all time in Deion Sanders saying this, that Darnay Holmes will be a really, really good player in the future, which I think so too. I think Darnay Holmes is really good, and I think he was one of our best picks in the draft. I was a big fan of it when we drafted him. Any other corners that I think can be up there? Julian Love is one of them, in my opinion, one of our more underrated players. And Julian Love played really well for the Giants last year. But overall, can we consider him one of our best players? Definitely not. And Sam Beal and Corey Ballantyne, definitely not. Sam Beal barely even played. Corey Ballantyne really struggled. So none of the other players in the cornerback position. But the one player in the cornerback position that we signed in the offseason, I think, in my opinion, is one of our best players. That's James Bradberry. James Bradberry played in the NFC South, which has Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, and Julio Jones, 3 of arguably the top 5 receivers in the league. James Bradberry had a really tough position down there for the Panthers, and he performed really well. I think James Bradberry is one of the more underrated cornerbacks in the league. He's been in the league for a decent amount of time. He's a veteran. He's had experience in the league, and I think James Bradberry is the best signing in the offseason, not counting in the draft. I think he was our best free agent signing. I was a huge fan of it. I'm pretty sure every single Giants fan was. I was a huge fan of James Bradberry. I really, really liked that signing by Dave Gettleman. I was really proud of him when he did that. I think James Bradberry will be our best corner, and I think he's definitely up there for one of our best players. I don't think anybody can argue that, because James Bradberry had a really tough position down in there in Carolina to guard 3 of the top 5 receivers in the league, and did it pretty well. So James Bradberry's got to be in the conversation, and you're stupid if you don't think so. Moving over to the safety position, and there's 2 very, very good candidates that can definitely be our best player. Jabril Peppers. A lot of people think Jabril Peppers is overrated. I can definitely see where they're coming from. Jabril Peppers only played 11 or 12 games. He missed the last part of the year due to the injury. And Jabril Peppers is definitely probably our strongest candidate for the best player on the Giants defense. And Jabril Peppers is really good. We got him off the Odell Beckham Jr. trade from the Cleveland Browns. And if you trade him for Odell Beckham, you're pretty sure he'd be a pretty good player. And Jabril Peppers is one of the better safeties in the league. And a lot of people do think he's overrated. I can definitely see where he's coming from. I think he's a little bit overhyped. Is Jabril Peppers, but I still think Jabril Peppers is good. I'm not saying Jabril Peppers isn't a good player. I just think he was a little bit overhyped last year. Once again, he didn't even play the full season. I wasn't that impressed with Jabril Peppers. I still think he's good. I still think he's one of our best players. I just don't think Jabril Peppers is the best player, but I do think Jabril Peppers is definitely in the conversation, because he's a beast. He's one of the best safeties in the league. I don't know how many interceptions he had. He had the pick 6. Off Dwayne Haskins against the Redskins in Week 4 in the 24-3 win. He had a couple of interceptions. And Jabril Peppers is really good. And we also have the other safety, one of the best picks in the draft, the safety from Alabama, the best strong safety in the draft, in Xavier McKinney. And I was a huge fan of the pick. And a lot of people did want to go somebody else. They wanted to go maybe another center or another offensive lineman, but you can't blame the Giants for taking Xavier McKinney in the second round. He's the best player in the draft. He was supposed to go mid-first round to the Cowboys, and he went all the way down in the second round to the Giants. I mean, you can't pass up on that opportunity. You got to take McKinney there at 36. I mean, McKinney's a fantastic player, and a lot of people do compare him to Landon Collins, who was one of the most overrated Giants ever, and Landon Collins was a complete bust. Had one good year in 2016, and ever since that, Landon Collins has been terrible. When's the last time Landon Collins has had an interception? I mean, he has just not been good at all. But overall, I still am a big fan of Landon Collins. I mean, not Landon. I still am a huge fan of Xavier McKinney. I think he can be one of the best safeties on this team. I think I made the video a while ago that I think Xavier McKinney will win Defensive Rookie of the Year, because I think Xavier McKinney is that good. I'm pretty sure all Giants fans are really high on him, and Xavier McKinney could definitely be our best defensive player. But you can't call him that yet, because obviously he hasn't played a game in the NFL yet. So, but overall, Xavier McKinney will definitely be a candidate for next year. I think he will be our best defensive player going into 2021. But okay, now it comes, and obviously, the best defensive player could change this year, because it comes down to, we do have a new defensive coordinator. They have to adjust to a new defensive coordinator. Obviously, we don't have any Dolphins players. Well, we have Montre Hartridge, or whatever his name is, Montre Hartridge. But obviously, he's not going to play. So, but we don't have anybody who played under Patrick Graham, I don't think. So, well, obviously, they got to learn his new system, so the players could play differently. But personally, I still think they will still perform the same way as they did for their old teams if they were good or they were bad. Sorry about that. But personally, obviously, it depends on how well they play under Patrick Graham. But personally, I still think the best defensive player, I'm going to say James Bradberry. I think he's going to be your most consistent player this year, and it's kind of a boring pick, but I still think James Bradberry is our best defensive player. I definitely could have gone Leonard Williams, and I definitely could have gone Jabril Peppers. I think most Giants fans would say Jabril Peppers, but I'm going to go Bradberry. I'm kind of an unpopular opinion, but I think James Bradberry is our best defensive player. I just think he's the most consistent. Just having to guard, our secondary was not good last year, and having to guard 3 of the top 5 receivers in the league, in my opinion, in Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, and Julio Jones, I think that makes him that makes him our best player. Once again, kind of a boring pick for our best defensive player. I could have gone with, guys like Jabril Peppers or, Dexter Lawrence. That's up in the conversation, or Leonard Williams, but I'm going to go Bradberry. I think he's our best player for going into next year. So that's my opinion on who I think the Giants' best defensive player is. And once again, who do you think the Giants' best defensive player is? Put it down in the comments below. I'm expecting a lot of Jabril Peppers. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are enjoying the fantasy draft series. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.